Hey there, Guitar One, Andy here. I just want to give you a little supplemental video for bar chords and their shapes, just as we get into the final exam. So we've been talking about bar chords and how we have bar chords that have roots on the low E string and on the A string. We haven't talked as much about a way that we can think about all these shapes that we use as relating them back to our open chords, our open E minor, open A minor, and open A major. So let's start with E major. Open E, we normally play just like this, right? But for right now, let's use a different fingering. Let's go ring finger here, pinky here, and our middle finger on the, you can see at the first fret on the G string. So open E with the different fingering. And the reason we can call bar chords, major bar chords starting from the low E string, we can say they use the E major shape is because if we take these three fingers and let's slide them up to the 7th fret. The 7th fret, and then we lay our bar finger down over the 5th fret. That gives us a major chord, A major. And these three fingers are in the same position they were from open E. That's why we call this the E major shape. You know, you have these three fingers on frets, and then you have three open strings. Low E, B, and high E are open strings. When we take this up here for the bar chord, we can still think about it in the same way in that the low E, the B, and the E are our new open strings. They're just covered by the bar. But for the intents and purposes of this chord, they're the new open strings, while these three are our fretted notes that our three fingers are on. So that's called the E major shape, if you like to think about it like that. And you can take that down to here, right? Have a bar on the 3rd fret, and then have the 5th fret with these two, and the 4th fret here. And you get G major, G sharp major, B flat major, B natural major. Same shape, the E major shape. So if you like to think about it like that, or if you like to think about it as major bar chords starting from the low E string, all the same thing, this shape. But that's why we call it the E major shape, because it's taking that and taking it up the neck. And always remember, our root is the lowest note of the chord. So for E major shapes, our root is always going to be on this low E string. This is when we play E major. E major, that's our root. No matter where we're at, that's our root note. So make sure you can find that too. Familiarize yourself with the notes from the open strings to the 5th fret, right? E, low E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. If you need review on this, there is a section under e-learning in the upload section, I think. It's either in uploads or guitar lessons, but look there. There's review for single notes on these strings. It's going to be really important that you know that for the low E and the A strings, because that's where our bar chords are going to start from. So on the A string, A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp, D. So just make sure you're able to locate those notes on these strings. That's one half of getting the bar chord. Then you just have to know which shape you're accessing. Let's go back to the shapes. We just discussed the E major shape. Now let's talk about the E minor shape, right? If we're going to play E minor, well, normally we play it like this or this, but for now, let's play it like this, right? With our ring finger and pinky here on the 2nd frets of the A and D string. That's E minor. Right? That's 4 open strings and 2 fretted strings. We got open E, open G, B, E, and we have 2 fretted strings right there. So we call this our E minor shape. Let's take this up. Let's take these from the 2nd fret all the way to the 7th fret, and then put our bar finger right down there on the 5th fret. We get an A minor chord. All right? We call that the E minor shape, because it uses the same shape as our open E minor. We take it up the fret and create new open strings with our bar finger. So we still have 4 open strings, right? We have open strings. We have open E, G, B, E. With our fretted notes on these strings, A and D, these two fingers right here, A and D. So again, you can take that shape anywhere. Take it down here, this would be a G minor bar chord. Be G minor because that's our root, and that note is G, the 3rd fret of the low E string. Take it down half step, it's F sharp minor. So E minor shape, F minor, and we end up back here, E minor. Take that same shape, and it might help if you watch these fingers as I go up. They're staying the same, right? So it's called the E minor bar chord shape. Starts from low E string, uses that shape. Let's go up to the bar chords that start on the A string. Similarly, we can refer to these bar chords as the A minor shape and A major shape. We're going to talk about the A minor shape first because it's really closely related to the E major shape that we already know. So to show you what I mean by that, let's use our bar chord fingering for open E major, right? And we know that we get to A minor by just taking these 3 fingers, keeping the same shape, and taking them up a string. Remember, when I say up, we mean this way, higher in pitch, up in pitch. So we have that here. We start strumming on the A string, A minor. So we're going to talk about minor bar chords starting from the A string as using the A minor shape, because similarly to the E major shape, we keep these 3 fingers in the same basic formation as we take them up the fretboard. So let's take them from here, and let's go all the way up to, now we got ring and pinky in the 7th fret, and we got our middle finger right there in the 6th fret. We're going to take our bar, finger, and bar. We really just want a bar for these bar chords, these 5 strings, right? We don't need, you can include this note right here, if you can see what I'm pointing at, like the 5th fret on the low E string. You can include that, and it's not a cardinal sin by any means. It's done a lot, but if you want to be technically accurate and make sure that you're playing the correct root, which is that, then usually what I do, I bar the A, D, G, E, and B and E strings, and then with a tip of my pointer finger, I just press it lightly into this E string so as to mute it, so that I can just strum through it. I'm still, the first note we're actually hearing is that, muting that. So that's just a technique you can use, that I like to use for these bar chords, but you can see, remember, you look at these 3 fingers, we're using that same shape as when we were down on A minor. We take them up to the 5th fret and bar our 3rd fret. We have C minor. We have C minor because right here, the 3rd fret of the A string is the note C. Make sure you're familiar with that. Take that up a half step. See these fingers? None of this is really moving. It's just going up and down the neck. So that's called A minor shape, or you can just think about it as minor bar chord starting from the A string, however is best for you. And the last one I want to talk about is the A major shape. So we have A major. We normally play it like this, right? We got the open A string, open high E string, and then we have these 3, the D, G, and B fretted on the 2nd fret. Now let's, just for the sake of showing how the shape transfers up the neck, let me adjust this. Let's take our ring finger, and we're gonna try to flatten it into the 2nd fret on the D, G, and B string, right there. And then we start our strum on the open A. That's tough to get that high E, that open high E in there. There it is. Okay, there it is. Hard to do A major with this fingering, but this is just to show you that this is that fingering that we're taking this up the neck. Remember, we flatten this finger out into the three strings right there. So you're taking the A major shape for A major chord and just taking this up. And let's say you have this, your ring finger on the 7th fret. Then you kind of lay your bar down here, and you have what's called, that's a D major, because 5th fret of the A string, that's our D. That's a note D. So remember, this one takes a little, let's see if I can get a good angle. This one takes a little work to, if you can see my ring finger right here, to get it to flatten like that. Just do your best with this. I don't expect this to, be totally perfect by any means by the final, but kind of what you're aiming for there. I see a lot of this in class. It's just hard to get all the response on the strings like that. So do try to commit to, everyone's hand's a little different. So it's what works for one person might not work for everybody, but as far as developing this, but see what you can do with that. Because it's like riding a bike. Once you can do that, you really won't forget. So these are our A major shape bar chords, right? Because our root is on the A string, and we're using the same shape as A major. Watch the ring finger as we go up, right? Everything's staying the same. This one will probably take the most practice. It's called the A major shape. I've talked about this in class a little bit too. With this one, let's say we're thinking about it on let's say we're thinking D major, right? So we're on the 5th fret, starting on the A string. We have our ring finger in the 7th fret, bar finger 5th fret, like that. We talked, you're barring this note, and then the next 3 strings are covered by this finger right here, but we still have the high E string after that. And the question of, would you include the 5th fret in the bar with the high E string right there? And I say, if you want to, you can. You have the 5th on top, that da. But it can be a little bit tough sometimes to make sure that your ring finger is getting out of the way of muting the E string, the high E string, so that you can hear that note. But if you don't include that note and it's a 4-note chord that's fine too. And honestly, I think in a lot of instances that may even sound better. It's got the major 3rd on top. It's a nice pretty note. Da. So a lot of times I don't even worry about including this high E, and a lot of times I'll just mute it, right, with kind of the under part of my finger here. So when you're practicing these, don't feel like you have to have this. It's like it would be this note right here included in the bar. I hope that makes sense. That's A major shape. So just practice these as much as you can. For the final, what I'm really looking for is you being able to locate the correct root, right? I'm going to call bar chords somewhere between the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th frets. All right, so you just have to know your roots on the E string and the A string between the open and the 5th fret. Be able to locate the root and be able to locate the correct shape, right? If I say, play me a G major bar chord starting from the E string, be able to locate this pretty quick. If I say play a B minor bar chord starting from the A string, being able to locate this pretty quick. If I say play A flat minor starting from the low E string, locating that. If I say D flat major. So just being able to access them quickly. Don't worry, I don't expect a perfect sound on these. Just do the best you can, locate the correct shape with the correct root, get the best sound you can, but as long as you can locate everything correctly, you'll be in good shape. Hope everyone has a good weekend. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see everyone next week for the final.